I mean, that's not the best angle, so let's fix that. But this one. Okay. That wire is really annoying. Is this long enough to plug in? Let's see. Plug in. Click. No. Click. Yes. Okay, it's charging. All right, 早上好. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So, it is Friday. Finally, we are done. We are done with the week and maybe even done with the month, all things considered. Oh, I messed up. 1 second. Man, that's what happens when you have hot water hot and ready. Whoa, sigh. Just spilled this damn thing. All right, whatever. Let's rip this paper so I can just keep the top half. It's okay, I only need the top half. Good morning, Maya. What's up? Good to see you here. Is that Yen coming in? Good morning, Yen. What's going on with this case? Why is it... Let me just adjust this really quick, because for some reason, my case is being weird. And I don't understand why. It's just not fitting. And it's bugging me. Let me try doing it this way. Okay, that's fair. Good. Boom, we're ready. We're set up. Yeah, good morning, guys. So we have like 7 or 8 minutes. We can do a powwow. We can kick the crap around a little bit until we start on the topic once again. So how is everybody doing this morning? How was your Friday? How was your week? I hope you did have a decent week this week. There's a little bit of some rough patches during the week, of course, but you know, it is expected. It comes with the program. Hey, 谢谢 Yan. Thank you for the coffee. I mean, I have some hot water, but thank you for the coffee. Appreciate you. But they should really price those coffees at a real coffee price. Just saying. Good morning, Crystal. Hi. Okay, so a friendly reminder, if you are watching this as a replay later on today or tomorrow, today is the last day that we are doing our live stream and our podcast on WeChat, at least for voice, right? So tomorrow evening, I will be leaving, so I'm going to be traveling, and that means I will not be able to do the live stream until I come back. Hey, good morning, Jessica. Jessica Wong is here on the YouTube side. Good to see you again. So with that said, once again, if you have access to the tube, please feel free to stay tuned on YouTube and you'll still be able to follow the live stream, right? If you don't have access, I will remind you again, you can come in at about 8 in the morning and I will upload a new video. The video that is meant for the people who follow the live stream is going to be unedited, no subtitles, nothing. Just me and whatever the discussion is. Just like a normal live stream, right? The only difference is it won't be live. And once again, the reason that we do that is because WeChat rules and regulations dictate that we cannot live stream outside of China without certain prerequisites. No, Jessica. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so Jessica was asking, I suppose that you will be live streaming at European time. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to live stream at the same time that I'm live streaming now and just totally ignore the European time thing. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to check right now what is the time difference and I will tell you if it's okay or not. Let's see. Current time. German, okay, I'm seeing. So right now, I can't tell if this is afternoon or if it is 上午 ah. Wait a second. Is this 1 a.m. or is it 1 p.m.? Hmm. 1 second. Let me figure this out. Because the description is in Chinese, it's very confusing. Okay. Wow. That's aggressive. All right, that's aggressive. I might have to think about it a little bit more. So basically, for me to be able to stream at the exact same time, it would be 1 a.m. 1 a.m. time in Europe. Okay. That is interesting. Well, at least we're going back in time. That's cool. 1 a.m. So doing the live stream 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. It's not really that bad. It's okay. It's not something I'm not used to. I am actually used to doing that. Also, we have to consider that the jet lag, right? If you consider the jet lag, I'm probably going to be up at that time anyway, right? Well, what I will try to do is at least the first week, I will still live stream at the same time, which is 1 a.m. German time and Central European time. I'm 100% sure I'm still gonna be up. There's no way I'm gonna arrive in Europe and then somehow my internal clock is going to be set for their hours. That's not gonna happen. No way. So yeah, more than likely I'm going to just stream at the same time, but it's going to be nighttime for me and it will be morning time for you guys. That's okay. That's fine. The only thing I'm really concerned about is whether or not people are actually going to be able to check out that content or view it on YouTube, which is less, it's not really likely, you know, it's going to be a very small following. So in that case, I do need to consider mostly focusing on doing the WeChat uploads, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, I suppose. If there's any days that I'm not going to do something, then I'll post a video about it and let you guys know. But as long as you guys are liking the videos, commenting or whatever, then I know that you guys are watching it, and then I know that I should keep uploading. But if you're not liking the videos, if you're not commenting on the videos, there's no engagement, then I'm going to assume no one is watching it. So that means I will stop uploading until I come back to China and then just do the live stream. Yeah, that's basically it. So let's see. Anything else? We still have like another minute or two. What else is on the agenda besides our topic for today? Let's see. I think one interesting thing for me, I think, is the markets were retracing yesterday. So if you're invested into the stock market and the New York Stock Exchange, etc., you can see that big boom, that big wave after the election is starting to calm down and it's starting to retrace. I definitely don't think it's going to go back to the same levels that it was before the election, but it clearly, it's pretty warm today. It's clearly going to be sitting at a higher level, but it's going to be retracing. So let's see how that goes. I've been paying attention to everything from the general stock market in the States, some of it in the Chinese market, but I don't really focus too much on it. And then partially on the coin market, right? The crypto market. One thing that is really strange that I thought threw me off, I saw this video where the guy was like, you know, the US economy GDP or something like this has increased by like 40 something percent, but your returns in the market have increased 400 or 500%. But then the GDP, like here, has increased something like 500% as well, which is insane. But your returns in the market are down to like 2/3 of whatever it is you invested. That's rough. That is rough. My goodness. Yeah, so you said the Shanghai market was retracing too, Nick? Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when everything is like connected together. Whenever globalization, everything has consequences far away from where it starts. Clearly, far away from where it starts. Yeah. So, yesterday we started on the topic of maturity. Wow, there's so many things. I don't even remember like half of the things that we covered really. But we touched a bit about how maturity is not something necessarily that comes with age. Maturity is something that's going to come from experience more than it comes with age. Good morning, Iris. And the thing about it is, if you don't have experiences, if you don't experience challenges, adversity, hard times, things like this, it's kind of difficult to develop a sort of emotional maturity or mental maturity. It's like if you don't experience these things for yourselves, you can only have some sort of like vicarious or passive feeling of what those experiences are like to develop your emotional maturity or your mental maturity, which can be really difficult to do. We also touched a bit on the idea of how children process things differently from the way that adults would typically process things differently. And as a child, we're more focused on using the emotional, instinctive, or reactional part of our brain to deal with any situation or challenges, right? So more reactional, more emotional. As adults, I would hope that most of us have had enough practice with the rational and moral part of our brain and to be able to look at situations more, what's the word, subjectively. Deal with situations from a perspective of mutual trust or mutual benefit, as opposed to from an emotional point. Mm. Oh, Julian. Julian says, "I don't want to go through suffering to become to become mature." Good morning, Hakan. I don't want to go through suffering to become mature. Well, I'm not sure. Like, is there another way for you to become mature if you don't go through some of the pain, some of the suffering? Some people, they tend to be very empathetic. Or is it empathetic? I might have to think about it. But some people tend to be very empathetic and they experience things through novels, right? Through books, through movies, through TV shows. And from those experiences, from those emotions that are being delivered by the author or delivered by the actors, they tend to also develop some sort of emotional maturity or mental maturity to be able to empathize or sympathize with the challenges of another individual or another person. I'm pretty sure that a lot of us may have seen some pretty terrible stuff, really terrible things like videos and content, whether it is related to warfare or accidents or anything like that. And we must have felt something. You must have. I know I have. I've seen some things where it's just like, yep, that's it. No more internet for today because it's just too much. It's too heavy. Um, I think, when I think about this, maybe it's because I used to be a teacher once upon a time, right? But when I think about this sort of idea of developing mental maturity or empathy through content, through video or something else that you've seen or a book, I always remember this video that I ran into swiping accidentally for whatever reason, because those are videos that just show up on people's stream. I don't understand why. But yeah, I always get reminded of this video of a kid that his mom was upset at him because of his test scores, right? He wasn't doing very well in school. And so she was in the car, and they were in the car. She was yelling at him and berating him, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what she said. Obviously, we were not in the car. And then when she stopped, she was stopped in traffic on a bridge, and the kid ran out of the car and immediately jumped off the bridge. I think some of you may have seen this video. It was a pretty serious and viral video here. So, when I think about empathy and emotional maturity and things like this that can be developed or felt through not your experiences, but what has happened to other people, this is one of the things that I remember. I remember that really, really strongly. And because of that video, I'm very, very mindful about how I talk to kids, how I talk to the students, and I'm also very mindful of how parents treat their kids. And I do my best to say something if I think it is necessary in terms of getting them to realize, like, hey, kids have not really a fully developed and rational brain. You need to take this into consideration before you berate them or bully them or treat them like crap. You know, one thing I did realize though, when I was living in the US, I don't know why. I don't know why, right? I can't tell you like, oh, it's this thing. When I was living in the US, I was very emotionally solid, like very, very tough. I think very little can actually move me or make me feel emotional or whatever. I was pretty freaking hardcore. But that might be a consequence of where I lived and the things I saw on a regular basis in person. So you sort of become more and more numb to kind of horrible scenes. I think that might be it. So when I lived in New York, I was much more solid. And looking at something horrible wasn't really a big deal to me. It's like, well, that's life. Then when I moved to China, maybe, I want to say after 2 years or 3 years, probably like at the 3 year mark, when I moved to China, I realized that I was much more emotionally vulnerable and sensitive. And what I mean by that is like when I did see some sort of video or content or story about something horrible happening to someone, I was more likely to feel something about it. I was more likely to feel sadness or empathy for that person because I've been living here so long, right? The other thing is like if I watched a movie or something like that where it's supposed to be a sad story or something emotional happens, when I was living in the US, I didn't feel a damn thing. I would skip those movies because it's like so boring, you know? But now, when I watch those movies, I actually do feel something. It's like, oh man, where do these feelings come from? So it's not to say I've gotten soft. I think I'm still pretty damn hard in general, especially when it comes to things that are violent, right? Unfortunate circumstance of growing up. But when it comes to children, when it comes to relationships and things like this, I feel very soft, very vulnerable. I don't know what it is exactly, but I feel like there is a sort of, let's say, filtering process. Before it's changing now, but before, when I first arrived in China and I lived here the first few years, at least in my experience, there was very little violent content. Things didn't seem to be as vulgar and violent and in your face as they are now. Now, when I look at social media, in China specifically, I see a lot more violent stuff, a lot more vulgar stuff. Even if they blur it or censor it or whatever, it's still there. You still witness it more often. Like, I'm pretty sure if you guys are like scrolling on, I don't know, TikTok, WeChat, whatever, at least once a day you run into something really awful like that, right? And before, like let's say before WeChat became really popular, before Douyin became very popular, and people were like using QQ, stuff like this, and YY, in that time period, it felt like it was a lot less common to see very vulgar, very violent, very emotional content kind of thing as well. So for me, I guess like the lack of exposure to it allowed me to become more vulnerable once I did see it again or once I did experience it again. Also, there was a lot less negative rhetoric on the internet with people fighting and arguing and saying awful things to each other because I didn't spend much time on Western social media where it was common. But I also feel like at the same time, a lot of those a lot of those features, let's say, a lot of those factors that exist in the Western social media seem to be spilling over here to Chinese social media, where it didn't exist before. Now, little by little, it's showing up. So there's a lot less. How about this? This is crazy to me. There's a lot less like sexual content or content that even looks remotely sexy, right? There's a lot less seductive content, almost none, unless you know where to look for it here. But there's a lot less of that, but there's a lot more violent content. There's a lot more vulgar content. There's a lot more death and killing and so on and so forth. So I feel like maybe the platforms have their priorities mixed up. And I say that because I'm like, when we're talking about things that are, even if they're sexy or whatever, right? Sex appeal is something that's very natural for every human being almost. Like there are very few people who have absolutely no sort of attractiveness to anything. But just generally speaking, for every human being, sex appeal is something that's very normal and very natural. It can be done in artificial ways, but we're just assuming it's a normal one, right? The normal tactics. Violence, death, maiming, this kind of stuff, I don't understand. Maybe somebody here can explain it to me, right? I don't understand how or why violent and vulgar content is more acceptable than sexual content. I have a very hard time understanding this. I don't understand how the imagery and the idea of visualizing vulgar content, right? Harmful content is somehow acceptable, but sexual content is not. So honestly speaking, like if we had to get rid of one of them, I would definitely say the vulgar, violent content is the one that we should get rid of, not the sexy one. But if you need to get rid of both, get rid of both. You know what I mean? It feels like the priorities are not really where they're supposed to be. But it is what it is. If they want to prioritize blocking out or putting away something that is sexual or sexy in favor for violence, aggression, murder, then that is their prerogative. But I think that in itself, going back to the original topic, right? That in itself shows a lack of mental maturity. That in itself shows a lack of experience in life. So, for example, something like violence, just in general, right? Responding to anything in violence is probably the most basic of instinct, right? So, basic instinct, fight or flight. Simple, right? So, if it's fight or flight as the most basic instinct, and this is what you absorb, and this is how you respond, and this is how you behave, then as far as I'm concerned, yes, that is a clear sign of mental immaturity. That means that you do have a lack of empathy, or you do have a lack of growth due to your experiences. we don't really know what it is. You have to look at every single individual and see like, oh, what are the circumstances that made their brain develop in this way? But unfortunately, we can't do that. I mean, maybe in the future you can you can have an AI system just read all the vibrations in your head. You put a headband on and it's like, okay, we see what's going on here. At that point, you'll never need a therapist or anything like that. Okay, let's see. Let's catch up with the comments. So Rain says, I don't get it either. What's happening now is it's becoming normal to watch. Yes, this is what I'm talking about, Rain. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It is becoming normal to watch. And so when you are seeing violent content on a daily basis, and here's the thing, it's not something you choose to see. Think about it. Think about it. At this point, most people are just scrolling. They're not actually searching for something specific to look for. Like, I search for specifics because I usually go on YouTube and I want to learn about something or I want to get updates or news on it. Okay, cool. I will search for that thing. But most people are not doing that. Most people are just scrolling. And even scrolling, you still run into so much violent content. So it's not even voluntary. It's just being put in front of you by the system, by the algorithm, by what's being pushed. I definitely think that we need to get those priorities fixed up. Let's see. Yeah, so Rain says violent content must be filtered, especially to minors. It's very dangerous. Well, give me a second. Give me a second, guys. There we go. Right, it will recommend similar content. Exactly. So yeah, I have a big issue with that because honestly speaking, I do believe that that is something that it regresses you to like the most basic instinct. There is no maturity in absorbing violent content for fun or for entertainment. I don't really see it. Okay, I get that. So Scott says pornography can be converted to work as art while violence cannot. What condo of constants? Vulgar content? Yes, I agree with you, my friend. Yeah. So yes, looking at things from the most basic level of like fight or flight, right? It just doesn't seem right to actually allow violent content on social media to just run rampant. For it to be available and accessible to people, I think it's okay that it exists and you can make the choice to absorb that content or not, right? Having that freedom of choice, I think, is okay if you are at a certain level of maturity, whether it is judged by age or some other factor. You choose to look for this content and you choose to see what's going on. That is your prerogative. But I don't think that people who do not want to see violent content should be forced to see violent content. It doesn't make sense to me because I've constantly, like when I'm looking at some videos, whether it's WeChat or some other platform, when I'm looking at some videos, I constantly get images of people either getting hit by a car or bombings or a shooting or this or that. And then I constantly have to be like, okay, block this channel, hide this channel, don't like, don't recommend. And then the next day I see it again and again and again. So it's like, dude, what the hell is going on, man? Like, if your algorithm is supposed to be smart and I'm actively telling you I don't want to see this content, why is it still recommending similar content? Yeah, probably. Okay, let's see. Let's pop over to our talking points real quick and see where we're at. All right, maturity. Okay, so we discussed the difference between maturity and age, and obviously, maturity is not necessarily something that comes with age. It doesn't matter if you can drink alcohol, drive a car, go to war, it doesn't make you mature. So we got to keep that in mind. Maturity is more about a mindset, a responsibility, and emotional intelligence. So that was the first talking point we discussed yesterday. The next one, emotional maturity is a big part of this too. So we can break down how it looks when someone can actually manage their emotions, like how they handle stress, disagreements, or criticism without losing their cool or acting defensive. So this part is actually pretty good. There's this part of maturity that it's like, okay, there's no argument you can positively identify that a person is mature. When you are in a situation that feels unfair to you, or if you are being criticized, your work is being criticized, your results are being criticized, something like this. Maybe whatever situation didn't go in your favor. Okay. When we're looking at that and we see how the person reacts or behaves in that situation, we can really see how mature they are. If they are able to respond in a rational way, just based on a subjective point of view. So, subjectively, did I do a good job? Subjectively, could I have done better with the tools that were available to me, with the time that was available to me? Yes or no? If that person can make a subjective argument for themselves and how they have done, let's say if we're talking about a project or a piece of work, then we can say, okay, cool. They have pretty good mental maturity and emotional maturity. Now, if we're talking about the same person in the same circumstances, but their reaction is emotional, they feel offended. They feel offended because they said, well, I worked really hard on this and I think I did a good job. So it's not fair, X, Y, Z. The idea of emotional maturity or mental maturity is not to be responding in a situation in an emotional way. It is the idea that you can respond to in a situation subjectively. So you can say, in fact, I have done a good job. This is what the standard looks like. These are my results. So based on the standard, my result is equal to or better than what the expectation was. Subjectively, yes, I have done an exceptional job, and it should be recognized as such. That is subjective. But if they have to respond in an emotional way, whether they think they did good or they did poorly, the situation changes. This will give you the insight of whether or not that person has an emotional maturity, or enough emotional maturity, rather. All right, let's see. Well, that's my experience too, Bless. So Bless says, yeah, I guess there is no day you can't see some violent content. To me, that doesn't make sense. I'm so happy you haven't. Isn't that awful? And Rain says, sometimes they will just put funny music as a background to make it more appealing. So desperate to earn. Dude, yeah, that is so disturbing. I've seen some videos like that where you have like the most horrendous thing happening and then they put like funny background music as if it was a cartoon. Hmm, interesting. Rather than keeping calm all the time, I gradually realized that it is better for us to optimize my emotion, better to get what I want. That's interesting. Yeah, feel free to elaborate on that. So here's the thing. For the most part, we can be emotionally mature in most situations, right? Especially because it comes with experience. If you have the experience of dealing with challenges and dealing with adversity, okay, fine. You can develop that emotional maturity. That's great. However, there are always some things, even for the most logical, rational, emotionally mature person, there is always something. There's always one subject or one topic or one memory that will trigger them, that will make them feel emotional, that will make them feel angry or sad or whatever. There's always something. So we can never be 100% logical and emotional in all situations, because even for the people with the most maturity, there's still something. There's something that may have happened in their childhood or whatever. There's always some sort of trauma or the circumstances of how they lived or grew up that make them feel more emotional or make them feel more defensive about a situation. I think I can use myself as an example in this. So, for example, I'm a guy that I mostly grew up around women all the time. Aunties, sisters, whatever. Most of my experiences are with women growing up. And women being like the authority figures and all that stuff. So, it goes without saying, I knew a lot of women. I knew a lot of the things that they dealt with, a lot of the things that they experienced, a lot of the, let's say, emotional recourse or recoil of the things that happened to them, especially in relationship to when men mistreat them. This is not to say women don't mistreat men. Absolutely, women do, in fact, mistreat men. I would even say women probably mistreat men much more frequently than men ever mistreat women. The difference is the severity, the level. Like when a man is mistreating a woman, it's pretty damn serious. It's a pretty hardcore thing. But usually when women mistreat men, it's considered mostly minor. But it depends, because there's always a psychological toll to this. But that's besides the point. That's besides the point. So, as a guy who's always lived and grown up and been around women all of the time, okay, I see some situations. Like, for example, the other day during a live stream, I think it was Chris's live stream. If you guys know Chris and you guys know Candace, for example, right? So during the live stream, Candace was talking about her experiences trying to sell her courses, like her English classes and her English tutoring, right? And one of the things that Candace said, she expressed that she doesn't take male students anymore. She doesn't do class for men anymore. And she explained why, right? She said, because usually most men will send her very inappropriate messages, inappropriate pictures, and they ask her questions like, oh, are you single? Are you dating anyone? Do you have a boyfriend? Can I take you out? Can I send you some money? Blah, 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 blah. Now, the response that she received from the two guys in the stream was, oh, it doesn't matter. You should just take the money. Like, your business is never going to grow if you can't deal with this and blah, blah, blah. So for me, you guys know me. If you've been watching my live stream, my podcast for a long time, you know how I am. I'm very logical. I'm very rational. I don't look at things as right or wrong. I don't look at things as black and white. Even if I disagree with you, I still speak to you with respect and I don't get emotional, right? But that stream bothered me. That stream bothered me a lot because obviously I have a lot of experience living with women, a lot of different women, and I know the things that they've had to deal with on a regular basis. So I got on the stream and I told them what I needed to tell them. I said, that's really ironic that for guys, for being the same guys that always complain about women using men for money, you're here telling this woman that she should accept sexual harassment, inappropriate messages, pictures, or whatever, just because she's trying to make her business, just because she's trying to sell her course. So she must tolerate this abuse. Really? That is so, first of all, it's hypocritical. That's the first thing I gotta put out there. Like you're like, you're like, oh, I hate it when women use men for money, but here you are encouraging a woman to use men for money. Obviously, Candace has no interest in using those desperate men just for their money. She knows that they're not interested in learning English. They're not interested in buying her classes or her courses. They just want to get close to her and they want to have a personal relationship with her, right? Obviously. She's not interested in that. So she rejects them. And it's happened so many times that she has decided no longer to take male clients. It's not because she had one experience. It's not because it happened twice. It's because it happens every single day. Now, some people might say something like, oh, well, maybe it just happens once in a while. Oh, how do you know it really happens? Maybe she's just a feminist. And I'm like, dude, first of all, me, as a grown man, as a grown adult man doing live streams, I get messages from guys all the time. I get messages from guys all the time, and inappropriate pictures all the time, and inappropriate soliciting all the time. Okay? So I want you guys, I want everybody to understand that myself as a man, I get messages harassing me, sexual harassment and or otherwise, pictures, voice messages, whatever, from other men. So you imagine if that happens to me regularly, you can only imagine how often it happens to Candace as a girl. So it happens to her every 5 minutes as far as I'm concerned. So, does she enjoy this kind of attention? Obviously not, if she's blocking them. Does she want this kind of attention? Obviously not. So why should she have to tolerate this sort of attention? Because you say like, oh, well, money's more important than your mental health. And the money is more important than your feelings. No, absolutely not. If she wanted to make money through this route, she could, like a lot of girls do. But she's not interested in doing that. So why push the issue? Now, the one thing that I didn't get to say on the stream, because I left earlier, was this. And I should have said this to these guys. If that was your mom, if that was your sister, or if that was your daughter that was getting these ridiculous, disgusting messages from random men every day, would you say the same thing? If that was your girlfriend, would you say the same thing? Oh, it's fine, it's money, you should tolerate the sexual harassment. Really, like think about it. And if your answer is, well, I don't have a sister, or I don't have a girlfriend, or I don't have a daughter, then you should definitely not be telling women what they should and should not do. You have no business telling a woman how she should handle that sort of situation, because obviously you have no exposure to being around women and understanding what happens to women on a regular basis anyway. So why does your opinion matter? So this is what I'm saying. Look at that. I got way too into that. I'm sorry, guys. So this is what I'm saying. When I say even the most logical and most rational person, there's always going to be something that can put them off, right? So for me, this is that something, at least one of those somethings, is when a woman has to deal with a sort of abuse or harassment or something like that. And then you have men who tell them, you should just deal with it. Like this kind of stuff pisses me off. And I personally, I do get emotional about it because I'm like, dude, that's so stupid. You know, me being a man and you yourself as a man, you understand and you know how men think in general, how men behave in general. It's not necessarily the greatest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? Like it is what it is and I understand that, but we should never encourage another person, especially a woman, to just put up with harassment because of money. Like that's really stupid. It's stupid and it's hypocritical because you are perpetuating the same problem in society where we complain about women using men for money. So you hate this problem, but you're perpetuating it by encouraging it. that's what I mean. Even for me, even for a person like me, I have no subjective side to look at this from. It sucks. All right, let me catch up with the comments, folks. Can't agree anymore. It sounds like when you say can't agree anymore, it sounds like I can't agree with you. But actually, it's can't agree more. You don't need to put the any in there. Domestic violence, yeah, we can't leave the name. May give the male student the wrong impression. Oh yeah, Julian, I know. So that's another thing I thought was really funny. Actually, when I first came to China, there's some students that had funny names like this, and there's some kids that have funny names like this, like Candy. And it's like, hey, we need to get you a new name, sweetheart. They're like, oh, why? I like this name. It's like, yeah, no, no. Let's get you an alternative name. Wow, that's so funny. Is that Faye? He says, they said no offense, and then they begin to offense. It's like the people that they go, not to be racist, but I'm gonna say something racist now. Like, bro, if you just don't say it. Just don't say it. If you're gonna be like, no offense, but all right, then you're gonna offend some. Okay, you're gonna offend somebody, and you're trying to say no offense. Just don't say it. It's either that, or don't even bother saying no offense because you know you're gonna offend people anyway. Then just say it. Just own it. Behave, Ronnie. Behave. Yeah, just block them one by one. Sad. Good. No problem, buddy. No problem. Actually, you're not the first one. Most people are used to saying it like that here. Like, I can't agree with you anymore. And I'm like, why? What happened? Did I say something wrong? And they're like, no, I mean I agree with you. It's like, oh, so you can't agree more. You know what's another common mistake? Look, this is a very, very common one. This is a very, very common one. I can't use the chat, so you guys, somebody can write it for me. Is I couldn't, I could care less. There you go. I could care less. Dude, this is wrong. This is 100% wrong. I could care less is totally wrong. The phrase is supposed to be, I couldn't care less. I could not care less. This is the correct phrase. Why? Because the idea is, depending on what you're talking about, what the subject is, you don't care about this subject. You don't care about this idea. So you say, I could not care less. It means your level of caring is at the very bottom. It is so low that it is impossible for you to care less about this thing. But if you say, I could care less, I could care less what you think, it means you do care. You could care a little bit less. So that means you care right now. So yeah, dude, native speakers get this wrong like 80% of the time. And they say, I could care less. Most people say I could care less, but actually that's wrong. It's I couldn't care less. So it's not just you guys, it's everybody. Americans, Canadians, Brits, anybody. They also would say I could care less, even though that's the incorrect phrase. It has the incorrect meaning. I ain't got nothing to do with this. Well, I don't know, Ronnie. That doesn't sound incorrect. I ain't got nothing. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, okay, I see. I ain't got nothing. So basically, ain't, I gotta think about it because I ain't and got nothing, it sounds like double negative. So it's like you're trying to say, I have nothing to do with it. But you're saying, I do not have nothing to do with it. It does feel like a double negative where it's like you're saying that you don't not have something to do with this thing. What does that mean? It means that you do. You do have something to do with it. Oh my God, that is so awful. I ain't got nothing to do with this. Definitely take out the ain't. And if you use not, take out the not. Is I got nothing to do with this. I have nothing to do with this. Yeah, don't say I don't have nothing to do with this, or I ain't have nothing, or I ain't got nothing, because now you sound suspicious. Yeah, we need to change that ain't to a and, A-N-D. And no mountain high enough. Hopefully not ain't no. You can say there's no, right? There's no mountain high enough. Yo, Ronnie, stop. You're turning this into an English lesson. We're not doing this. I'm not an English teacher. Chill. Chill. Dude is converting my live stream into an English lesson. How dare you? Okay, let's continue. Let's continue through the emotional maturity side. Wow. All right, so I was going through the second talking point. Let me read over it one more time, verbatim. Emotional maturity is a big part of this too. Maybe break down how it looks when someone can actually manage their emotions, like how they handle stress, disagreements, or criticisms without losing their cool or acting defensive. Yes, we covered that. We can even talk about how mature people are usually self-aware, able to reflect on their own actions and thoughts without blaming others all of the time. So there are many circumstances, there are tons of circumstances where we can say it's someone else's fault because it in fact is someone else's fault, whatever the situation is. But the reality is, if we use enough self-awareness, right? If we have enough maturity, no, Jessica, if we have enough maturity and self-awareness, we will realize that on our end, there are things that we can do so that we don't have this problem. I gave an example about this when I talked about being on time, like being punctual. So for example, let's say you're 20 minutes late for work and you tell your boss, the bus driver, it was the bus driver's fault because he got stuck in traffic, or whatever excuse you want to make. Oh, the driver in front of me stopped the car suddenly and it broke down and then we got stuck on the bridge. Like, whatever your excuse is, anything that is going to make you like 20 to 30 minutes late, something like this, chances are you could have done something to prevent that. Could you have stopped the thing from happening? Absolutely not. But the idea of trying to be somewhere on time is already a bad idea. There's always something that we could do to account for these things happening. There is no surprise that on a weekday in the morning during rush hour, there's going to be accidents. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be incidents. There are going to be traffic jams. A lot of things can go wrong because so many people are moving at the same time. So what we need to do is have self-awareness and take accountability and make sure that we account for that time of something going wrong. When you do it, the worst thing that can happen is you get to work a little bit early. Nice. What's the problem? You get to school a little bit early. Nice. What's the problem? The price of being late in the long term is much more expensive than that of being early. I would know. I was late to my state exam for university for math. That sucked. It took me like 2 years to make up for that one lateness. It was horrible. I go into detail about it in one of my other live streams. It was awful. So yes, don't be late. Account for the things. Expect the unexpected. Self-awareness is important. Thank you, Jessica. Take care. You have a fantastic day. Jessica has to dip out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying the conversation, you are enjoying the stream, make sure you hit that follow button. 关注一下，谢谢你. And also, ladies, gentlemen, remember, we're not going to be on WeChat stream for like the next couple of weeks, the next few weeks. So please feel free, go into the channel, check out some of the videos I've already posted, hit some like buttons and some comments. It helps, 100% helps. And we only need 7,000 followers to get to the 50K so that I can stream from anywhere in the world. That would be fantastic. Just 7,000 more. Right now we're sitting just over 43,000 followers. So yeah, if we can get 7,000 more, that would be fantastic. But I already expect that we're going to have our momentum drop for the next couple of weeks since I won't be in China. Sad. 没办法. What can we do? Let me see. Let me catch up. I think I missed something. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you, brother or sister. I'm not sure if you're a guy or girl, but thank you so much. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing. And thank you guys for dropping the gifts. I saw that. I see you guys dropping gifts. Yes, Yanni. Like, so here's the thing. I know it seems like the gifts are not really that useful, but actually they are. I gotta be honest with you guys. Because in reality, what ends up happening when I was doing the live streams in the evening, for example, because there's a lot more people in the evening live stream, and people would drop little random gifts here and there, a heart or coffee or whatever, and usually it adds up over time. And so what I ended up doing was any little bit, it's not a lot of money, but you know what? It is enough money for me to spend on like a new microphone or to spend on the green screen, on the lighting systems and stuff like that. Like, obviously, we're not making a living off of this. Like, no way. But at the very least, I don't have to take my personal, like, not too much of my personal money to pay for equipment and stuff like that for a live stream that I do for free. You know what I'm saying? So it does help. So I appreciate you guys. 谢谢送礼物的朋友们. You are amazing and thank you for sponsoring. Also, ladies and gentlemen, do remember you can always add my WeChat. My WeChat ID is the same as the channel name Comment Live. YouTube, Instagram, 小红书, Douyin, every single platform you can find me by using the same name. Search for the same name, Comment Live, KOMITLIVE. If you have access to the tube, that is also how you'll find. I will be doing live streams there, but I will be posting the videos on WeChat. Thank you, GB. Zale. All right, so let me see. Let me finish this one talking point, and then we will be set for today. Now let's see. The next talking point. Okay, we can get into personal accountability. Surprise, surprise, we just did. The whole owning your mistakes thing. Mature people admit when they are wrong and learn from it, rather than trying to find a scapegoat. This ties into being dependable, like doing what you say you're going to do and not flaking on responsibilities. Very, very good. So, yeah, I know it's terrible. I know it's terrible, dude. So, as we were talking about personal accountability, if you are a person who always tries to find someone else to blame for your problems or the things that happen, etc., what happens is you deprive yourself the ability to develop your own mindset, to develop your own brain and look at things from a rational and logical perspective, because the instinct for you is to shift the blame to someone else. This is even worse when you do it with kids, right? So when kids do something wrong and you tell them, oh, it's okay, it's because of her or him, or it's because of that, or you blame another object or person, then that child learns that personal responsibility is not important. What we should do is shift the responsibility of things happening to others. That makes for a phenomenal adult. Okay, definitely not. In case you didn't realize what I was saying, I'm being sarcastic. That doesn't make for anything positive. Whenever something does go wrong, the first thing that we need to do is look at it objectively and say, was there something I could have done differently in this situation? Was there something I could have done to prevent this or to have a better result? If the answer is yes, take accountability for that. Now, the things that you cannot control, that you have no power or no influence over, those things are not your fault. For example, if it rains today, what were you going to do? Were you going to stop the rain? No. You set up a picnic, you didn't check, like, okay, let's put it like this so it makes more sense. You set up a picnic with your friends to go to the park and have food and hang out and play games at the park. Last month, you guys made this appointment. So from last month, I would say it's almost impossible for you to know if it was going to rain, right? So then the day comes, it starts raining, you have to cancel your event. Is that your fault? Probably not necessarily. You can't control the rain. And also you planned this a month ago. Is there something you could have done to get a better result? Actually, yes. Yes. Because if you already know from 1 month ago that this is an outdoor event, then what you should do is keep track of the weather. Keep track of the weather forecast every week until the week of the event. And then you may be able to foresee that there's a high chance that it's going to rain on that day. So how do we avoid this? Can we shift into an indoor venue if it does rain on that day? Do we have a plan B? Do we need to set up, I don't know, giant umbrellas or something? Like, what can we do in hindsight? What can we do ahead of time in this sort of situation? That's all you can do. You cannot stop the rain, but you can definitely prepare a plan B just in case. So there is that part of accountability, that there's always something that we can do, in fact, even if it's a small thing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this morning. And once again, sweet reminder, very bittersweet reminder, today is the last day for our live stream until about, let's say, the first week of December. I think we should be back about the first week, if not the second week of December. Yeah. So please remember, hit that follow button, sub. And you can add my WeChat if you have any questions, comments, if you have suggestions for another topic, amen. Just add my WeChat, same as the username here. Also, remember, I'm your personal development and business consultant. So if you do actually want to inquire about consultancies, do let me know. Contact me on WeChat, folks. Let's see, shift responsibility. Yes, probably that's why there are so many emerging adults that want to delay their responsibilities. Agreed. Let's see, yeah, that is really mature. Some people always find a scapegoat, and sometimes that's cute. Sometimes they make you feel like it's your fault. Yeah, the goat emoji is pretty funny. All right, folks. With that said, happy Friday. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful, stay amazing. Look at every opportunity out there. Every situation is an opportunity for you to learn, for you to grow, for you to develop. And with that, stay beautiful, stay amazing, and I will see you in December. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye, YouTube.